Okay, there we are. Hey, good morning, afternoon, everyone. I got it working. I think I got it working, Chesh, without any
Hi,
bugs this
hello.
time. Yeah, yeah. You can hear her, right? Did I do it right? Did I get it
Hi.
right for a change? I've only done this 2,000 times. You think by the 2,001st time, I'd probably have it down, but it's like every morning there's something that just changes. I don't know what it is. I don't get it,
Are
but
are we live, Dad?
we are live. Yes, we are live. Everybody can actually see you and see how miserable you are today because you've been, from what I understand, miserable today, and I had to force you into doing a show today, even though neither one of us were like kind of up for it because I have a lot going on in real life right now that I like to take care of today. But I was like, you know what, we got to stream, and she's like, but Steve, I'm not feeling good, and I'm like, suck it up, suck it up, Chesh.
Is that what happened? Okay.
I'm paraphrasing, okay. I mean, we kind of had to talk
It's
about
close
this particular
enough.
topic because you're supposedly an elite hack source, so I figured you'd be the best to ask about what the hell happened with the Twitch data breach because I'm just kind of
Oh,
reading about it.
the Twitch data breach. Okay, so there's like a handful of that I just absolutely find hilarious, and it's that for some reason people are mad that people that do shows on Twitch were making money, and I'm like,
Is
yes,
that what they're
right?
is that what they're actually mad about? Because I don't. Okay, I mean, granted, there are millions of people on Twitch, and probably less than 0.01% make any significant revenue of any consequence. The people that are making millions of dollars a year, there's dozens of them at most, kind of thing. It's not like you have thousands of users making that kind of money. It's a very, very small percentile. And I think people recognize that, yeah, there are a few that make that kind of money, but are they mad because they get that kind of money, or are they mad more that only so few do? Because that's how I'm reading it.
It was okay, so it kind of depends on which fans you're talking about. So I saw Pokimane respond, and if you don't know who Pokimane's one of like the biggest female gaming streamers on Twitch. And her response to this leak was like, "Well, at least people can't say I'm making $3 million a day anymore." Ha ha ha.
Yeah, a year, but not a day. Yeah. No, I'm sure she makes pretty decent money. A lot of those high-end streamers make decent money. I just never got into the Twitch platform. I tried. It wasn't for me. I just didn't like streaming on Twitch.
Twitch is good for some things, but it's not the right kind of platform for everything. So I don't like it very much for this kind of interaction. It's
Right.
just not conducive to this kind of interaction. It's good for like competitions and speed running and like artsy craft stuff because the way they have their hub laid out to organize those things is way better than YouTube's is. So for doing stuff like that and solo streaming, it's very very good. Or gaming streaming, very very good. For playing D&D, very very good.
Well, that's the
But for
highest.
trying
The highest one is a D&D show that's making the most amount of
to,
money.
that's Critical Role, right?
Yeah.
And people, okay, so the interesting thing about the fans that I saw of Critical Role, or the people that were mad about Critical Role, is I saw more people actually responding, being like, "Why are you mad about this?" than I saw actually people mad about it. So I got a little bit confused, and I saw somebody do the math to be like, okay, so if Critical Role's Twitch stream is pulling in this much, we're not including sponsors, but I'm also not including production costs. And there's 31 people that work for Critical Role. So you take the money and you divvy it up, and then taxes and da 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 da. It's basically everybody at Critical Role is making 70K a year.
Which is a pretty
Like
nice income for what they do. I mean, nothing to sneeze about, but they're not individually making 50 million a year.
Right, right. And then again, you're removing production costs, right? So you're not like they rent a space and have a warehouse and have sponsors and have this. So a lot of that stuff is not taken into consideration, but at the same time, they're not counting all of the money they're making, nor are they counting all of the money they're spending. They're just like, here's a rough maybe estimate about what these people are making doing this show. But there's a lot of work that goes into that show, like a lot of work that goes into that show. And I'm curious to see Critical Role 3, campaign 3 is starting at the end of this month. And I'm very, very curious to see this time they're not doing it live anymore. Everything's going to be pre-recorded. So I don't know. I think that'll make it better. Because they'll be able to like cut out when they kind of just go off on tangents. But some of those tangents are really, really fun. So I think as long as they have good editors, I think it will be as seamless as it was when it was live.
Yeah, well, it's just like any other job. I mean, they have a production value. They have a staff, apparently a full-time staff, because just like a lot of the those types of higher-end shows. I mean, look at like Epic Rap Battles of History. Those guys have like how many dozens of people working on those things. It's not something that a single individual, even two people, could even do by themselves. You have to have a team for those kind of shows. And I'm like, go for it. Make your money if you can do that. If you have a product and it's entertaining and people want to watch, hey, who the hell am I to lambast that? I don't think that should be that part of the Twitter breach. Was the least of my concerns about how much money they're making. Of course, again, it is rare when you have any real value for any kind of streamer nowadays that are making that kind of money. I mean, you really have to be on the higher echelon, which we're not at, by the way, nowhere near. But, I don't begrudge
really,
those ones that do.
Making $70K on YouTube a year? That'd be nice. I'd take that.
Yeah, well, if things had taken a different path, and unfortunately you do have dishonest people in the world, things like that might have been possible. But unfortunately, the things that I've discovered on YouTube is for every good person you have, you've probably got about 2 or 3 shitty people that for some reason.
Is it actually 2 or 3, or is
or
it
it's one
like
with 3 socks? Yeah. It's 2 people with 6 socks between them. Yeah.
I don't know. I find the leak is absurd. Like that the leak itself for Twitch is not okay. And like there's no reason why that should have happened. But it seems like the result of the leak has not been like too bad for anybody.
Well,
like,
what is okay? So, what are the things that actually got breached, though? Other than who got paid what? Supposedly, some passwords may have been compromised, so they're telling people to change your password, and they did change all the stream keys. That was done. Yeah, that was done by Twitch. They changed all the stream keys.
Yeah.
But as far as like,
it says some data was exposed to the internet due to an error in a Twitch server configuration change that was subsequently accessed by a malicious party.
Yeah. How does, first of all, since you're the lead hacker here, how do people recognize that there happened to have been maybe a server that wasn't configured right? Maybe we should ask Landon what that would even entail, and why that specific configuration of the server allowed for somebody to come in and steal, 128 gigabytes worth of data, including the source code? Because I think that's the biggest thing for Twitch, is that they got the original source code, and that's, proprietary software.
Well, basically just my tertiary glance at this as a lead hacker, as a super lead hacker, tells me that somebody at Twitch left a door open by accident. There was a door that was left open by accident due to a configuration change. And so because the configuration change went through, it opened the door, meaning all it took was somebody to notice that door. However, what this article that we're looking at doesn't, which I'll link in the chat right now so you guys can see the article we're looking at. What this doesn't tell us is how long that door was open for. And so because the thing is like sometimes you leave a door open, you don't know that you left it open. Yeah,
well, I mean, you might have left things open for like testing purposes or things of that nature. Obviously, they didn't expect any malicious thing to happen. If this was intentional, that they had left something open, or if they just were not aware that the configuration wasn't right.
It says due to an error in a Twitch server configuration, meaning they
that's a pretty big error.
Door open on purpose. It's a big error, but because it doesn't say how long the door was open for, if the next question is like, well, how did anybody notice?
Yeah.
That it was open. Well, the answer is there are people trying to do this 24/7.
Really?
There's always people trying to break into large.
Is that what you do on your Discord?
Well, it's there's white hats and there's black hats, right? So there's people that are constantly like that the company hires to break in, and then there's shitty people that are just trying to break in because they think, well, sometimes they do it for what they think are good reasons, but it doesn't really matter what their reasoning is. The point is that Twitch is constantly being Twitch's security is constantly being tested. Apple's security is constantly being tested. A lot of banks' security is being constantly tested. Facebook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because of that, And because it's constant, they're just constantly pinging forever to see if there is a door open, and like just constantly checking all the doors every time for one of them to be left open.
Yeah, well, it makes sense for them to hire white hackers to constantly try to infiltrate, because if they get in and they find and discover a bug, then obviously they can fix it. So I have to ask you directly, and feel free to take the Fifth Amendment if you are not comfortable asking.
I'm Canadian. It doesn't apply to me anyway.
Whatever your version is for the Canadian Bill of Rights that they have, you have some kind of thing against self-incrimination. I don't know what the hell it's called, but it's a similar principle.
Yeah,
so,
the rule is that saying sorry is not an admission of guilt.
Yeah. So you had nothing to do with this data breach, I take it?
I'm sorry.
She pleads the Canadian Fifth. So the thing with the data breach, when I was reading that particular article, I think that even though they kind of said, hey, look, this is a massive breach, it still seems like they're downplaying it, because when you have a company that is that large, that has that kind of ability to have compromise of personal data, that's disconcerting. That is something that I think to myself, look, do I want to be involved in a company where, my personal information can get splattered everywhere? Now, me personally, whatever, I'm not going to care if my personal stuff gets everywhere, because my stuff is everywhere. But for the most part, I still think it's a concern that the average user would have is, you don't want that personal information getting out. And that should be like the number one priority of any company, to secure that particular data. That to me is a huge breach of confidence, a huge breach of trust, that you're trusting them with data that if people got a hold of, could find out things like your personal address, your telephone number, your banking information, and especially your password and your stream keys, where they can go in and wreck a $1 million Twitter channel if they had all that information, right? So,
right.
Anyways, we do have a caller. Hi, caller. Athena, goddess of wisdom.
The only thing more disconcerting is that is that it took you 5 minutes to notice. Well, you let me in.
Oh, I noticed too. Yeah, I was getting to you, man.
This is like what, the second time I'm on your channel?
Yeah. What is it? You're like, like the old days, man. Used to hang out every day. Now it's occasionally.
Well, I don't know, man. I've been doing my own thing. I saw you live. I figured I saw the meet link, and I was like, you know what? Let me go on, because I have nothing better to do with my life.
Well, do you have Twitch?
No.
Okay, so you don't.
Well, actually,
no.
Never mind. I do have Twitch, but I don't use it.
Okay.
I never use it to stream.
Well, I'm the same way. I have Twitch too, but I really very rarely use it, if ever. Again, I wasn't a big fan of it. I probably don't loathe it as much as I do Discord, but it's up there, because Discord sucks and I hate being on it.
Well, those are two very different things. Although you can use Discord as a streaming platform.
Yeah, I mean, there are some overlap there, but I mean, as far as the usages of the platform, I just don't find Twitch to be that friendly for what my content is.
When I used to do art, when I used 24, I used to stream art 5 days a week for between 5 and 8 hours a day. It was a lot of fun. I got to do a lot of I did a lot of challenges. I did a lot of I was drawing. Had viewers who I was drawing as whatever their suggested thing was. So we did a My Hero Academia one where we spent a month just designing and figuring out My Hero Academia heroes for people that were in the stream. So if you were a viewer, you were like, oh, hey, this is the hero I want to see. This is what they look like. Create it for me. And so there'd be a live back and forth doing and designing the character and painting it and getting it all ready and deciding what their abilities are and how to represent those abilities in a character design.
So I have a quick question for you, Cheshire. What do you think your quirk would be?
So universe? So we actually did meet also, although we didn't do a full painting or anything. We used me as an example later down the line. And I was just I'm doing art, so I have to have 2 paintbrushes. And so I paint things and they exist now.
So
Oh,
you
I see. So you're able to manifest something in the real world.
so you create
Yes.
something by taking a potentiality of a concept and then you make it concrete
Paint it into
by
existence.
painting it into existence. So you're changing the fundamental nature of reality by doing something that if you had not existed would not or could not exist. So you have
Correct. So like
a
if
major
I needed
influence
to
in the
get up
universe.
somewhere, yeah. So if I wanted to get up somewhere, I could like paint the stairs as I was running. But there was
That's
like
awesome.
there's a weird rule with it because all of the quirks have like almost all of them have a huge detriment. Like if you use it, you're like damaging or like there's a risk.
Only if you're All Might.
Well, for All Might, yes, but like a lot of them have like there's a negative, there's a downside to the quirk. So like one guy is like, cool, I have this cool shadow power, but I'm also kind of a bird person, and so like you end up like sometimes with like weird
Is that kind of like having like the ability to turn invisible, but only when nobody's looking?
Yeah, there's an invisible girl, but she can't turn invisible. She is invisible.
Oh, see, I have that power. I can turn invisible, but I can only do it when nobody's looking.
So wait, so if she thinks of see being invisible just seems like how it just how would that even work?
I'm
like
just gonna
you're
start.
invisible. Like
Yeah, she's invisible.
Yeah, you're invisible.
That's not a
but-
superpower. I don't think I'd really give a crap about being invisible. What am I going to do with that?
Well,
I mean-
the superpower I would like to have, which seems interesting, which it seems useless at first, but when you think about it, it's actually useful. Is the ability to take over people's body for 5 seconds.
I don't know. I'd really want that power either.
Well, let me explain. There's an anime called Charlotte, right? To where teenagers have different they have different powers until they turn 18. It's a whole backstory thing. The main character can actually can actually take over people's body for 5 seconds. Now, on its surface, it just seems useless, right? He causes a lot of chaos. He causes a lot of chaos at first, until a student from a school is like, you know what, you're too out of control. We need you. We're gonna essentially not hire you, but we're gonna essentially keep you on lockdown so they can control you. Now, as the series goes on, you actually figure it out that. Oh god, it's so awesome. You actually figured it out that that his power could actually be
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Fine, never mind.
Well, kind of similar. Have you ever read a series called the Xanth series by Piers Anthony? Like A Spell for Chameleon was the first book in the series. Ever
I have
read any of
not.
those? Because
Danny Phantom was amazing.
that's kind of similar about finding out what his actual power is when he has no actual power, but that in and of itself is an actual power kind of thing. But if there's a little spoiler there, but yeah, that was great. That was a great series, the Xanth series.
There's the thing with invisibility is that it certainly is very good for reconnaissance, and so it's good for a lot of things. It's just a matter of like how combat heavy is it? It might be decent like if you're good enough at like judo, but if you're not, then
Yeah,
it's
for
still
reconnaissance would be
useful,
fine, but
it's
still, I don't want to be
it's
in a.
very much. It's a utility, a thing, but it also keep in mind that like you have to think about this in like there's a difference between your day-to-day life and how your day-to-day life would suddenly be different if everybody's got powers
Mhm.
and you live in superhero land.
Oh, it'd be much different. And again,
Right.
being invisible would be great for recon, but it's still in a war situation. Bullets are flying around everywhere. You're still going to get hit. Mortars are still flying around everywhere, being exploded. So,
if you're like
not a superpower I want.
yeah, you could certainly still get shot. But the problem is if you're invisible, this isn't for her in the show at least. This is not a turn off or turn on ability. If she gets shot, nobody knows she got shot. She's invisible.
Yeah, see, that'd be detrimental. Yeah, so I would rather have like
that's what I mean.
super strength
All
or
of the
something.
powers have the powers have a detriment.
Yeah.
One of the guys can like phase through objects, but he's blind while he's phasing through these objects, so he has to like have a very, very good state of spatial awareness. Because if he doesn't, he'll get lost completely and not know where he is, where anything is, and he'll try to become corporeal again. when he's in the floor and he'll die. So there's
Cheshire, have you ever seen the
also-
anime A Certain Magical Railgun?
oh yeah.
Like I don't know if it was in A Certain Magical Railgun or A Certain Magical Index, but there's this guy who can actually who can actually control the vectors, but
Yep.
it takes such a toll on him because it's so computationally expensive that
Yeah.
just I didn't watch the series. I saw a video of this guy's power and I was like, holy shit! I would love to have the power to control vectors. Like Steve, you see, for example, for the record, controlling vectors means controlling like physical vectors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what a
Of
vector is.
objects. No, I know. But,
A
but
vector
in
is a
case you were
direction with a
wondering-
scalar quantity of magnitude.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think in
I
case you
took
were wondering
I took
in what
vector
context-
analysis.
Right. In case you were wondering in what context the anime was using that.
Did you ever watch The Magicians? Because there was a title of a group of people that can do something called traveling, which is very similar. They could travel, but they had to be able to navigate, because if not, they're going to end up, being, made physical, or with a corporal, being corporal in a wall or something like that, right? So they go to this incorporeal state and they travel and where they want to go just by thinking it, but they need to have an idea where they're going, because if not, they're going to end up, in, like you said, on the floor or something, which would probably suck. But see, here's the reason why I don't believe any of that stuff's possible, because I don't know what the rules would be, and I don't think things like magic exist for that very reason.
You're arguing that superpowers aren't real?
Yeah.
How
Well,
dare you? What
Well,
the
hold on, Steve. I have to completely
Like magic
disagree
isn't real.
because. Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Superpowers wouldn't exactly be considered magic, right? Like their body.
Well, I don't know. They're a
bodies
violation of natural law.
Well, I mean, as far as we understand,
Yeah.
natural law, well, who knows? Like, scientists are discovering weird shit about physics all the time. So,
Well, I mean, if you had a superpower that was based upon some kind of physics that we didn't know about, that's different. But I'm just talking about what we conceivably consider to be a supernatural ability that's non-distinguishable from magic for the most part. I mean, if you heat ray vision or something, is
magic is just misunderstood science. Or, sorry, not understood science. Well, you get the point. Like,
Well, it kind of depends if you're talking about magic in reality, or if you're talking about magic in within a built system, within like a fantasy built system. So like there's a physiological reason for magic in Dungeons and Dragons. It's still not considered science, but a wizard would be more akin to a researcher and a scientist,
because they're trying to discover how magic works.
Well, it's because they're not. It's not that they're discovering. Well, some of them are discovering it, but it's because they are manifesting and utilizing something that is a thing that exists, and it's just called the weave. And the weave exists because gods exist, and there's a goddess of magic, and the goddess of magic controls the weave, and so the weave is there. This god manages it. And so the wizards there, although magic is magic, and how it interacts with the physical world is going to depend on your DM and stuff. There's still a reason and an explanation. It's just not too much, because if you explain something too much, it's no fun anymore. Helios for 5 said they would know she got shot because she's only invisible, not anything she is wearing, holding, etc. So they would see a floating bullet. So no, interestingly enough, with this girl.
wait, wouldn't she bleed?
Well, yeah, she can bleed. But you
Right,
wouldn't,
but they'd be able to see the blood.
No, because she's invisible, including her internal organs. All of that's invisible. Still a reason.
But what about
her
when the blood
is
comes
invisible.
out?
But
Yeah,
her
but that's
blood
my
is invisible.
question.
That's what I'm answering. Her blood is invisible. She is invisible.
Okay.
Right,
So-
but it would be the. You know what? Go ahead.
So I get it.
If
Yeah.
you get shot by a bullet, so you can make clothes. They have people who have made clothes for her that maintain the quality of invisibility. They match her, so she doesn't have to run around naked all the time. However, also, when she eats, you don't see the food anymore. So as soon as she consumes it, as soon as it's part of her body, as soon as it's internal, it's gone. And so you can't see through her. She's invisible. So when the bullet is inside of her, it's not. You can't see it. It's blocked by the invisible part of her body anyway. She's invisible.
Yeah, I mean, if that's how the invisibility works, that would make sense. It should be invisible whenever it's past that border, the
I have
skin.
to double check to see if her body actually, like, if her blood hits the ground. But as far as I recall, it does not.
But this
And so her blood is also invisible and maintains that quality.
This is why
it's in her DNA.
But this is why I disbelieve a lot of the things when it comes to like magic and things of that nature, is because they would have so many rules for it, and it's like, where do these rules come from? I mean, it's one thing to say there's rules for the laws of the universe. I get that. We descriptively describe what we observe, and we say, hey, look, we're going to make it into some kind of formula that we can use in physics or mathematics.
We're recognizing a pattern.
Yeah, we're recognizing something. Right.
That's how we make sense of
yeah, we didn't make it that force equals mass times acceleration. We did not prescribe that. We didn't say, hey, universe, this is how it is. We said, oh, let's observe the universe. The universe is telling us that we can make a relationship between summation of mass times the summation of acceleration, and we get, oh, look, the summation of forces. So we had some force value.
Right,
but magic, we have nothing like that. There'd be no way to quantify it.
See, it's that equation, the force equals acceleration times mass.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one you were using.
Yeah, second law.
It's descriptive, not prescriptive.
Right,
we're describing something that we observe in nature, which happens to coincide with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think that we can prescribe law.
Like to say, especially Darth Dawkins, the laws of physics are prescriptive.
That's stupid.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, I guess in a sense I could see where you're coming from, but at the same time, no, the laws of physics can literally change if we find something that breaks them.
Yeah, well,
they haven't, but
they can't be prescribed. I mean, the only way they'd be prescribed is if you had a being that was so powerful, that was so omnipotent, that was able to actually say, look, I'm create a universe, and these are the laws of physics that I gave to this particular universe, right? That would be prescribed because that being is saying, this is how I want it to be, rather than merely describing it. But
Barbaric Mass makes a good point in the chat. It says it would still be a, quote, law of the universe. It's just that you don't understand it. And how can something not exist in the universe? Yeah. So basically, like, if magic existed, we would already be seeing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would already be there, and it would either be written into our rules as like a question mark, or a variable that we have yet to. So like the Higgs boson, we know that there is a thing there because mathematically it has to be there. It makes sense. We just don't know what it is. So anything that would be considered magic would have to already exist, and it would just be a question mark within. We'd be like, okay, so I can snap my fingers if I do this thing, and every time I snap my fingers, I can start a fire. That might be considered magic, but if I can recreate it every single time, then there's an equation to describe why and how it's happening.
Yeah,
right?
well, we could predict. I mean, they predicted the Higgs boson because it's a gauge particle it's literally the gauge particle for the Higgs field. So they predicted it what energy levels they would find it.
What do you mean, messenger?
And they did. But that's, I don't really, obviously that's not related to magic, because we have a theory that says, look, according to this theory, there should be a particle at this particular energy level, and that's the gauge particle, or the force particle for the Higgs field. And so we've discovered numerous particles like that. Neutrino was discovered like that. They were looking at beta decay and said, hey, why is this energy dissipating? Where is this energy going? There's missing energy in the system here when you have a neutron changing into a proton and releases a positron and a weak neutrino, or a electron neutrino. And so it's like, we didn't know this neutrino existed. All we knew is that there was energy missing because of our model said, hey, look, there has to be a relationship between energy and mass. It's not here. Where's it going? Well, maybe there's a particle we're not seeing that has no charge, that doesn't leave any kind of imprint on the universe, as far as like through a bubble chamber or cloud chamber where it influences something other that it can be seen as a path. But we knew it had to exist, and they did confirm that eventually. Because
I have a quick question. What do you think? What do you think of the possibility of a fifth force?
I think that's highly likely. I don't think that 4 forces are just like I said, prescribed in the universe. I think there's probably other forces that we're unaware of that may have very small.
And we don't even know time very well. We know it exists and we describe it in a way, but our description of time is not the reality of all of that time is and does. because we're limited in our observation of it.
John Giovanni for $5 says any sufficiently analyzed magic is indistinguishable from science, heterodyne corollary. To a degree, again, I don't know if that adage really works for me, to be honest with you, because just because you're not familiar with the science doesn't necessarily make go, oh look, that's magic.
I think it's
in a
more
technologically
of a
advanced,
right?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I think the analogy is more of like about recognition, not what is. Like you're calling it magic because you can't analyze it properly, and if you could, so like, oh, lightning getting thrown or coming to the ground is a god and it's magic. It's like, well, no, if you take the time and you learn and what's going on, you wouldn't call it magic anymore.
I would say, I would. This is personally, maybe. Whatever, but I would say, even if you understand the laws of physics, you can still see them as magical, right? Because it's like
I think that's
I don't.
I think now we're talking.
I think
about
spiritual maybe,
kinds.
but not magical.
You're talking about you're at that point you're switching around what terminology you're using to describe what. So if you want to say that, hey, this is a magical experience, or I take wonder from this thing, and so I describe it as magical, versus describing something that is, no, this is an event that took place, and I caused this person to spontaneously combust by saying an incantation. Those are very different kinds. Or I'm
that's literally what I wasn't going to incantation. I was just saying.
I know that's what I'm saying. I agree.
That to me, I don't know a lot about physics, chemistry, but what little I did learn, it makes me see the world in a whole different light. Like it's really weird when you really weird when you look around and you realize that everything around us, including ourselves, is made out of it follows the laws of quantum physics. And the reason why we exist is because of each particle observing another particle and then collapsing the wave function. I read an article that the entire universe may just be quantum mirrors looking at each other. You know what I mean? This is how things in your room can still exist after you leave.
Yeah, it's called object permanence.
Yes, this is, and you get people who are good at object permanence, people who are bad at object permanence, and people who have no object permanence. And that's actually an interesting phenomenon that it's not common, but it certainly happens where somebody just lacks object permanence, and they will be walking down the street, they'll be in their own backyard, blink, and not know where they are relative to anything else. They won't know what direction they're facing. They won't know where they're.
See, the interesting thing is that even though those they may not have object permanence, everything around it, this gets very weird to describe, because even though they may not have object permanence, everything around them has object permanence. You know what I mean?
Well, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, if you leave a room,
cats are notoriously bad for their level of object permanence. That's one of the reasons why cats freak out at the door when you go to the bathroom.
And also, it's something that we just assume is the case. When I leave a room, I assume that the room is still there, that there's a permanence, that it's not contingent upon me having to be there or observe that room for it to exist. I do believe,
cat, right?
Yeah, I do believe there's an external reality that exists. Do I think that we process that external reality perfectly? No. I think that our perception of reality is heavily biased because of biological constraints.
We're not four-dimensional beings.
Yeah.
Just time alone demonstrates that. Exploratory Minds for 5 said time to me is just movement, but perception of time taken has a more subjective value. Yeah. So time is incredibly subjective in some contexts and incredibly objective in other contexts. So like the length of time that we've described as a year, that year will feel a lot different depending on what's gone on, where you live, and who you are. Just take, for example, the past 2 years of craziness that's been going on. But if you want to talk about like what time actually is, does time have a physicality to it? It might, But we don't know that because we're three-dimensional beings and we exist within 3 dimensions. How does a one-dimensional being try to describe the 3rd dimension? They can't. They can only like experience it or a portion of it, let alone like be able to recognize a cube.
Have you ever read Flatland by George Abbott? That's his name, Abbott George, or George Abbott? But yeah,
I can't read.
It's a great book.
I mean, apparently you got like you have 62. So,
but there's two real ways of looking at time, and I haven't really decided which one is the best philosophy, because both of them make sense, both of them don't make sense, and it's either one or the other, really. But the two main ones is, one's called reductionism, and the reductivist approach to time is that time is literally a distinction between events or changes in the universe. So if there was absolutely no change in the universe, if everything remained absolutely frozen in stasis, including down to the quantum level, there was no change at all, then the reductionists would say, well, then time has stopped. There is no time at that point. But to what's called a Platonic realist for time, with respect to time, they hold that even if there's no movement, there is still time. There's still something that exists that is what we consider to be time, even though there's been no changes. And that's kind of a hard thing to look at. It's like, think of a container where inside that container you have some kind of fluid, and there's no movement in that fluid. There's no Brownian motion. There's no fluid movement at all. There's no quantum. There's nothing in that container that's changing. Is it in temporal status? As we look on it, we'd be like, hey, look, we're still experiencing time, so it still is. But anything in that container is not experiencing time, if from a reductionist approach, because it's not seeing any change. There's nothing to be changed. It's in status. You start going along the lines of how many numbers are between 1 and 2? How many milliseconds are between 1 second and 2 seconds? I know how many numbers are between 0 and 2.
Exactly. So that
countable infinity.
How much time is between 1 second and 2 seconds?
Yeah. Wait, no, it's uncountable infinity. I'm sorry. All the numbers between 0 and 1 would be uncountable, right? Because it's on the real number line, and that field would be uncountable because they're not like the integers, which are countable, or the natural numbers.
The other question is, is time a resource? Will time run out? Is that possible?
Again, I don't know what that would mean, except for you have, obviously there's a stage where everything just becomes one big black hole. All these black holes are just, feasting off each other for trillions of years from now. And at that point, time is so bizarre that I wouldn't even know if there's a way we'd be able to apprehend it.
Just the fact that time can be bent is just that alone, and is evidence of.
You want to know the most mind blowing? You want to know the most mind blowing thing of all?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a high bar you just set.
Well, the most mind blowing thing of all is that our universe could, may actually be inside of an event horizon of a 5th dimensional black hole. If that's true, the implication of that is that the black holes in our universe also host their own universes. So essentially the laws of physics actually allow us to have pocket dimensions.
Yeah, it's mathematically possible.
So by that logic, you could have a TARDIS.
Yeah, and there's a couple problems with time travel, and one of them is that if time travel exists, then it already exists.
In which case, we should have had people traveling back.
Literally exists. We're moving forward in time.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we can go as far as we want forward. Just going back is the problem.
Yeah, it's like whether or not we can utilize or bend time in a way that allows us to go both directions, or assuming there are only 2 directions to time, because that's just the way we experience
linearly.
it. We experience it in a linear manner. Mm-hmm. And so that doesn't make time, our experience of time and how we describe time doesn't mean that's what time is. And so just because we experience time as being like, oh, we can just bend it in half and go backwards, doesn't mean there's only 2 directions to go necessarily. For all we know, it's an infinite loop and it just goes around, and we just only happen to be able to
wobbly, timey-wimey.
We only experience such a small amount of it. And not only as a whole, but also as a concept, right?
here's something. Here's something that's mind blowing. Another mind blowing thing. Okay, we only seem to be able to go forward in time. Yet, yet, within whatever. Within your own mind, you can you can go backwards in time if you want to. Not physically,
Oh, like have a
obviously.
memory.
Yeah, but
You can-
that's a conceptualization, right? That doesn't do because
Right,
time's arrow has to do with
but
entropy,
my
right?
point is,
So
but my point is, how can something like that exist in the universe? How can we, our conscious, exist in the universe? Like, that's, I mean,
well,
you know,
from a purely materialistic point, that's the problem, right? Problem of heart, consciousness. But I think the most interesting thing is not so much that we can slow down time or change time, but I think the concept of there is no such thing as actual simultaneity. In Einstein's relativity, simultaneity goes out the window. Local realism goes out the window, and even Einstein had a hard time accepting that local realism isn't the case. That's why he called it spooky at a distance action. Action at a
This to
distance.
me is why I think that not only is not only does the universe exist, but it's inevitable, and life is also inevitable. When you get into quantum and you get into like the universe is simultaneously infinitely large and infinitely small at the same time, and then have an infinite amount of time. It's only a matter of time before what happens.
Cheshire is inevitable. She exists in all possible worlds.
You
Okay.
can't stop me.
Yeah.
Who
Hello,
just
everyone.
called in?
Hello. I know we have a caller. Hi, caller. Who's this?
Who dis?
Helios.
Helios.
Hi, Elias. How you doing, man?
What up,
I
stud?
heard you guys talking about time, and I had to call in because this is my fun little jam here.
Do it.
It's his jam, man.
It's your jam. Well, I don't know. Are you a B theorist or A theorist or other?
Other. I believe that time is more along the lines of it's a dimension we experience, but it's more like saying, trying to clarify that something is trying to like clarify the second or the third dimension as a thing.
Mhm.
It's not the proper way of thinking about it. It's more like a space.
As far as dimensionality, because
Yeah.
the more common way to look in dimensionality is in like space time is 4 dimensions, right? You have what's called Minkowski space, so it's 3 temporal and 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension all woven together, as opposed to like a Neil Lorentzian. A Neil Lorentzian would say, look, our universe has 3 spatial dimensions, right? So if you see a cube, you have height, width, and depth, but there's also a temporal component. The same thing if I say, hey, look, I want you to meet me at latitude this, longitude this, altitude this. I need one more component to tell you when to meet me. So you have 4 things. So the more commonplace in physics is that it's all one thing.
I
It's
love
just
having
4
these
dimensions.
kinds of conversations because like, okay, so no surprise, I like to play D&D, and D&D
Really?
gets to play with these kinds of concepts. Like if you're playing role play, like you actually do the role playing part of the
Pathfinder.
game. Right. If you do a little bit more of the role play, or you've got some players that are clever or like to utilize their spells in like weird ways, you then have to have a conversation about, can werewolves take fall damage because they're immune to everything that is non-magical, and fall damage is not magical.
Depends on
And
if
the
they
answer
fall
is
into a bunch of silver.
Well, if they fall into the silver, sure. But if they fall onto the regular ground, can they be dropped from an infinite height and take no damage and just destroy whatever they land on? But the answer, the fun part of that answer that you can get is, you know who doesn't take fall damage in real life? Squirrels.
Wait, somebody say squirrels. Squirrel. No, wait,
Yes.
not a dog.
But to jump back towards Steve's thing, I would challenge both those assumptions in that we experience 3 spatial dimensions in one time dimension.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't limit time to just one dimension, just what we experience it as.
Well, I think it does for our
So-
universe, actually. No, I think our universe is limited
Right.
to one. It wouldn't be stable. If you look at the diagrams for multiverses where they have more than one temporal component, none of those are stable. You couldn't have anything of existence into it.
It's just because we can't imagine it as being stable. Actually, the Doctor Who universe has more than one time dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think mathematically it doesn't work that way. I mean, again, I'm not a physicist, but when I've seen the equations for putting it in time things, it's always going to be one dimension on all the
Steve,
physics. Because it
I gotta ask you something.
Yeah.
Why are you limiting your imagination?
Has nothing to do with imagination. Is what are we constrained by? I mean, we can imagine all kinds of things, right? But I mean, the universe doesn't conform to our imagination.
No, it doesn't.
Right?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Nor does
The
math.
universe
But,
also
it doesn't. But
doesn't
Einstein did say imagination is more important than knowledge. I mean, knowledge plays a
But-
part, obviously.
Oh,
but-
okay, but
The
if you gotta
universe
put
also
limits
doesn't
eventually.
constrain itself to our limitations either.
Right.
So-
but
Well, yeah, that's
We
true.
may
Like, you
have
know
the
what I mean?
limitation that only one thing that, as we define existence, can have one time dimension, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't things out there which say, nah, 3 time dimensions is fine. It's
Yeah, I think there's
beyond
like a
our
little bit.
sensitivity.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a difference though between like there isn't really anything necessarily stopping 3 dimensions, but there are certainly things that we can know about time that says that it's not necessarily limiting what time could do, but it starts limiting what we know time can't do. Right? So time isn't going to make you able to fly, right? Like no matter how much knowledge
Yep.
or the ability to manipulate time you have, it's not going to grant you flight, right?
no, the
Okay,
way
Cheshire,
you know how to
disappoint
fly,
me.
right? Though you just throw yourself down the ground and miss, according
But
to
no,
Douglas Adams.
Cheshire disappoints me. Little imagination.
Well, the thing is you could imagine like, okay, let's say you could manipulate time as much as possible, and so you could jump and hold yourself for an amount of time in the air by stopping the time moving forward for you, but allowing time to continue going for everything else, which would thus allow you to get to point B without touching the ground because the earth would turn beneath you. But that's not flying anymore. Come on, you're not flying. You're doing some other shit.
Well, all I know is that tell the Wright brothers they can't fly. They'll prove you wrong.
Well, there is something to be said about.
No,
I know-
that's not.
I know
Hold
it's
on,
not
that's not what I said. That's
I
not
know,
what
I know
said.
it's not the
But
flying
the-
you mean.
I mean, it is possible to have rigidity in space. Gyroscopes do that all the time. You could have rigidity in space, and all of a sudden the Earth is moving away
Yeah.
from you at thousands of miles an hour, and you're like, "Oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have the rigidity in my space
I
time."
wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able
No.
to fly like.
There's like
I would
the thing
challenge
is that-
your declaration that that's not flight by saying it all depends upon your reference frame.
Yeah, you
if
could. I mean, you
you-
could redefine it,
Yeah,
define
falling
it
is
to
not
something
necessarily flight. Flight is controlled falling.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, arguably that would be considered a controlled fall because you're controlling when you fall and hit the ground to land in the spot that you want to be in. But you are not traveling. Everything else is traveling. Right. So it like depends on how you. Yeah. If you wanted to reframe it, but it not the like you don't. You're not Superman at that point. You're and flying around.
Did
You're
I
doing
just
something.
remove myself?
Well, you know,
Once upon a time, Superman didn't fly either. Superman just jumped real far.
and you know,
Yes.
Sean makes a valid point. It's like when you are flying, when you're up 40,000 feet above the surface of the Earth, there is actually a noticeable, or at least measurable, if you have the sensitive enough equipment, to have time dilation. The time for you is different than that on the ground. Now, it is negligible for all practical purposes. Matter of fact, from what I remember, the gravitational has a bigger force than the speed or velocity because you don't start measuring. You don't really have noticeable effects until you're about 0.18 or something percent of the speed of light. Prior to that, just like at regular subluminal
Well,
speeds, you're not
we
going to generally
actually-
have any measurable effects from
well, that's
contraction.
not quite true, because when GPS was first invented, they didn't believe in time dilation as an actual thing.
But that's traveling pretty
So
fast.
they didn't
I mean, the time.
include it.
But GPS has
Yeah.
two things that it has to account for. It accounts for special because it is traveling at pretty decent speeds because it's in orbit, right? So it has to not fall
Yeah.
down to the ground because that's what orbit literally is controlled falling, right? At that point. And
Well,
then
there's
you
a,
have once again you have the general, which is because the fact it has lower gravity. So both those are taken into account in GPS. But one, that's really, really, really high, and two, it's going very, very fast. For us, you get in a car, you're not going to have any time dilation factors. We could
Oh,
not go
yeah,
that
no.
fast.
You
Yeah.
have to keep in mind, like, if you're going to start getting into like warp travel or
Well-
space travel across far distances, if warp travel was something we could do, there would be a huge time dilation problem.
Well, hang on. So I'm gonna say something. Speed. God damn it! I did it again. Steve. There you go. Steve. Time dilation time dilation does happen. It's just so minuscule that we don't even notice.
Well, yeah. Again, though, if you're at really, really slow speeds, there is no time dilation. It's not. It's does it. You could. It's not even measurable because it's so minute that it's nothing that could be even measured.
Right,
So
right,
it's
but it's still right. But the point is, it still happens. Just because you can't measure
not
it
according to the math.
doesn't mean.
Yeah, not according to the math. It does. If I'm walking, the mathematics is zero. It's not until the math, even with it's not measurable using in mathematics until you're traveling at a certain speed. Because if you look at the Lorentz transformation formula, right, 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus v squared divided by c squared, until you start getting to about 0.18, it's basically no difference. If I was to say, what's my Lorentz contraction for traveling at 2 miles an hour walking as opposed to standing still, the mathematics is both going to be equal. It's going to be zero.
There are very few people who have any measurable amount of time dilation in their life, and all of them have one thing in common: they spent extended periods of time in space.
Mhm. Yeah.
As far as time dilation affecting the real world, when it wasn't included in GPS was telling people to turn left in the middle of a street, or and eventually got so bad that it was telling people just completely wrong directions because it didn't know where they were in the world. You needed to calculate and adjust for time dilation in order for GPS to work at all.
Yeah. No, like I said, you really don't have to take a lot of those factors into account until you're really high up or having some pretty substantial speeds. No, they don't go for 18% the speed of light, but the mathematics where it's actually starting getting noticeable is around 0.18, if I remember.
I just think there's lots of fun things you can do with all kinds of. It's important, and I think it was Einstein that said imagination is key, right? It's
Yeah,
important.
I literally said that.
Yeah, well, I'm just double checking to make sure I got it right. If it's important to not get lost in that though, because you can end up you're so far off the rails of what we could possibly reach to even if that's what you've imagined is accurate, and even if it turns out to be true, you've gone so far off of this way that you've lost track of the steps it takes for us to prove it and get there, right?
Well,
Yep.
I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying you should have imagination like the creationists, where they can't prove anything, but I don't know. To me, I've grown. Would you mind muting, please?
Who?
You.
Me? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't realize I was transmitting.
No, that's fine. But as I was trying to say, over the past few months, I've come to learn how powerful imagination can be when utilized correctly. You know what I mean? Like we have a very powerful trait that many people just don't make use of, which oddly enough, they do make use of, but always imagining negative outcomes. I can't talk to this girl because of the negative outcome. If I buy if I buy this dress, I'll be out of money. You know what I mean? Like you're using your imagination negatively.
No, that's not. No. There's. I wouldn't call that imagination. That's fear. That's having
you're imagining. Well, it is fear.
sometimes
Well,
a legitimate fear.
No, okay, yes, but at the same time, you're still worrying about a future. You're still imagining a future event. You're thinking. You're thinking to yourself like, if I spend this amount of money, you know what I mean. I'll be out of money and I can't pay rent. Like, you know what I mean? You're imagining a possible world.
It depends on what you're talking about when you're talking about imagination. Like, there's a difference between like, oh, I'm imagining a unicorn. What if I eat this ice cream now and I turn the corner and there's a unicorn there that needs to eat this ice cream? Then I could make friends with that unicorn. Then is a far different kind of imagination than no. It's a brute fact that if I buy this dress today, I won't be able to pay rent in a week. Is not the same kind of an imagination.
Cheshire. Imagination is imagination. It doesn't matter whether you imagine a possible world based on facts or whether you imagine a unicorn. Imagination is imagination. You want to call it something else?
I just think no. I'm just saying that I don't think that's a fair or reasonable way to describe what you're describing. If you have an obligation, right? You're obligated to pay that rent. You're being pragmatic and potentially maybe even fearful about the consequences of your actions, and those consequences are not imagined at that point.
But just because moving on, it doesn't matter.
I understand that you're trying to say that this is a concern in your mind. You're not living totally in the moment. You're foreseeing and looking forward, and that foresight you're considering imagination. But I think if you're going to describe it that way, right? I think it's a little bit, it discredits unfairly because of the language you're using.
Well, I don't think so, but it's a matter of opinion, so it doesn't really matter in the end.
Yeah, I think imagination is just somebody that has creativity to kind of think outside the box and then visualize things, which, I'm not a visual person when it comes to that. I don't do artsy craftsy kind of stuff. So I don't need a picture of something in my head and say, okay, I want to draw this, because it's just not a skill set that I really have.
Maybe I'm just picking on the example. I think the one about the girl and not wanting to talk to her because you imagine rejection, or you're afraid of rejection because you've imagined a scenario all based on whatever assumptions you have. I just don't think maybe I'm having issue with like, no, with your rent one, you've already made the obligation. So it's not the same kind of thing. So if you go to the first example, I'd be like, yeah, no, that makes total sense. But the rent one to me was just like, wait, no, I don't think so.
Well, it's still here's the thing, right? Your let me try again. Your nervous system, all right, can't tell the difference between between an imagined event and a real event. This is why when you remember something, that memory creates that memory generates the feelings associated with that memory. You know what I mean? You're essentially reliving. Your mind is essentially reliving the memory as if it's happening now. Thus it's generating the feelings you had when that event occurred. This has been proven in psychology for years.
If your mind fabricates some kind of world where you couldn't even tell the difference between that and actual reality isn't any less real to you, isn't any less something that your mind is telling you is real. Because I mean, one of the things that as you learn about philosophy of mind is do you want to believe that we live inside our head, that our entire existence is actually inside our head, and that we don't really even interact with any kind of real world to any real degree? We just think that we are because our perceptions of reality is.
Never go full solipsism.
Well, it's not even well, I mean, maybe to some degree.
I know you're not getting there,
but yeah. If you think about it, have you ever heard of the homunculus fallacy? Homunculus fallacy is based upon the fallacy is that you have basically a homunculus in your head, and that you have a little person, and it's visualizing a screen, and what we're seeing on the screen is reality. So it's basically playing for us our imagery of what we perceive to be reality. But then that person must be having a little homunculus of their own that is watching something and infinitum.
Infinite regress.
Right. So do we think of ourselves as just basically a consciousness that's contained within some kind of cranial space based upon the physical substrate of the brain that creates the mind, or is it something that is beyond that? Now, it all depends how you want to look at it, because you could look at it as just we're just a consciousness that exists somewhere in there, but where? Who the hell knows? What is the seed of that?
Well,
that's been a long time question of philosophy.
A lot of problems when you start talking about the philosophy of mind, because it's just something we don't.
Well,
where does the consciousness actually reside? The pineal gland, or
Well, yeah, I want to add something. I want to add also something more to this, right? Like in my our at the end of the day, as I said, our experience is subjective, but when you think about it, there's power in that subjectivity, right? Because you can visualize yourself succeeding, and then take steps, take steps to actually accomplish that, actually manifest that success in real life. This has been shown to be the case for years, right? Visualization, the many athletes, let's say, they visualize themselves winning. You know what I mean? Granted, they put in the work, but it's because they visualize, that win, that they put in the work to make that a reality. Like our minds
the
are
likelihood
powerful.
is in your behavior and your attitude will assist you in negative outcomes or positive outcomes from whatever you're attempting to do.
Well, right. If you have a negative view of the world, you think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do anything. Of course, of course you're gonna fail. Like I don't know if anyone here has ever read Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
I haven't. I'd be curious though to know how that idea of mindset change, like how you would tie that to whether or not there is free will and determinism, though.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like once you realize, that you have the power to change your mindset. You know what I mean? You can either choose to do it, or you could just, okay, I can change my mindset. Cool. I don't feel like putting in the work. What was that?
Involuntary, dosastic involuntarism. Yeah.
Yeah.
But real quick, I think we had a caller jump in here.
Yeah,
Hello?
I'm sorry. I think a lot of it. I take a lot of space.
No worries.
I am fat
though. Jesse?
It's me.
Oh my God.
Can you hear me?
Yes, unfortunately.
Hello.
Yes,
No, I'm just kidding.
it's me, your secretary.
Yes. You have been doing a wonderful job, by the way. Your
Thank you.
Your annotation skills and shorthand is fantastic.
Yes, I'm aware, but thank you.
You're welcome. So, what do you got for us on this particular topic? Are you aware of the Twitch breach, or do you have anything to add about that? Because you used to do Twitch, didn't you?
No, I've never done
Oh.
Twitch. I've done like YouNow and stuff like that.
You did gaming stuff, but it wasn't on Twitch.
No, no, I did like on Facebook. and YouTube. Years ago, I did YouTube, but I did Facebook like recently. I would just like upload videos.
Streaming on Facebook is probably one of the most hilarious things I've seen. I did a couple of them, and I was just like, "This is such like a garbage platform for this."
What about streaming? What about streaming on Twitter?
Twitter, I
I've
see.
never
I'm
even
new to
tried it.
Twitter, so I don't even know. Like I'm clicking on things, and I'm like, whoa! Like I just made a Twitter, so I'm just kind of new.
Tweet,
with
tweet,
things.
tweet, tweet.
I've never. I don't think I've
Tweet.
streamed to Twitter. I mean, I remember on Periscope you could, but I don't think I ever used Periscope to stream that I recall. So.
And Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. I did. I've streamed on Instagram, but the thing with Instagram, it deletes your stuff after 24 hours, whether you like it or not.
You could download it to your phone.
I know.
And upload
Yeah,
it.
whatever. I don't know.
I
Instagram's kind of
refuse.
yeah.
Oi.
I don't know, man. You got anything for us about time? We got out in the weeds.
Time. I think time is the present. The present is a gift, and a gift is amazing. So time is amazing.
Time is a gift. Gifts are amazing. Therefore, time is amazing. Is that your syllogism?
Basically.
All gifts are amazing. Time is a gift. Therefore, time is amazing. It's a categorical syllogism. Very good.
Do you guys know about Life is Strange? The
Yes, yes. I played
Yeah.
the first one. Didn't get a chance to play the second one, or the spin-off. Like
yeah,
the
I'm
fir-
getting all three of them when it
Well,
comes out.
Nice. Well, okay. So you didn't play the first one?
I played all of them, but it's coming out
Oh.
on Switch, and I'm gonna get them on Switch. But yeah, I've played all of them.
Well, I mean, look, it was an interesting game, right? I really like
is.
a lot of the songs, like
Yes,
"To
I
All
actually
of
learned
You,"
some of them. Mhm.
America. I can't remember the song, but then there's the song they play when they find a certain body, mountains. I don't know. Like many people shit on that game for being life is SJW or life is Tumblr, which okay, I kind of see their point, but I don't know. I was always more interested in the time travel mechanic than anything. You know what I mean? The time rewind.
Yeah, I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't believe in time travel. Honestly, I just think that.
But nobody likes you, Speed.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be cool and everything, but I
Steve?
think physics prevents backwards time travel. And if there is a way to time travel, I'm happy to change my
There
position
are-
once we find more physics. But
we just need to find the
There
Infinity
are
Stones.
physics models that allow for backwards time
well,
travel.
sure. I mean, even a
that
Feynman
don't
diagram.
require it to already be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, a Feynman diagram, kind of suggests that if you have two particles that are opposite particles, if they're antiparticle, then one particle is moving forward in time, one particle is moving backwards in time, and it works fine for the Feynman diagrams. But that's just, I think, a holistic approach to try to learn these things. I don't think that really anything is going backwards with respect to time as far as going the opposite direction of entropy. I mean, it's possible, but and then again, if that's the case, it might just be on a very small quantum level anyways. There may not be a physical way to say, okay, I want to go back to the way the conditions were in the universe a million years ago. It just may be something that is prohibited by the universe, just like, perpetual energy is prohibited.
I disagree, Steve. Prove me wrong. Oh, never mind. I was trying to make a joke, but I would love for time travel to be possible. I would go back in time. Well,
It just seems to be probably the case where it's probably not. It's nice to think about, but it's not possible.
Well, I mean, who here has watched What If?
I've seen.
Marvel What If?
Yeah.
I know of it.
All of you have watched What If? Like all 9 episodes?
I haven't watched all the episodes yet, but I've watched quite a few of them.
Oh well, because I was going to talk about the Doctor Strange episode, which that ties into this discussion about time travel.
I believe I have watched that one.
Right. So I'm just gonna talk about it. In that in that episode, the what if Doctor Strange, rather they asked the question, what if Doctor Strange lost his heart rather than his hands? And by heart, by heart I mean his girlfriend, right? So his girlfriend dies, right? So he still becomes Doctor Strange, but he's obsessed with using the Eye of Agamotto to go back in time to save her. Now every time he does, he fails because shocker, that's a point, that's a fixed point in time. You know what I mean? He can't do that without fucking everything up. Now he becomes obsessed. He becomes obsessed in reversing that so much that he literally destroys his own universe. Jesus Christ, that was hard to watch.
This is why this is why only Doctor Doom matters. Only Doctor Doom matters. Everybody else can suck it.
No, fuck you. Doctor Strange is good.
I like Doctor Strange. That's one of my favorite superheroes.
I didn't say he
like
wasn't good. I
The
just said he didn't matter.
Time Stone.
Yep. I want the Time Stone.
Yeah, Time Stone would be the coolest.
I think Shish is more talking about only Doctor Doom matters, as in the gods have already acknowledged that the only one capable of saving all of humanity in the earth is Doctor Doom. Otherwise, we're on inevitable course to self-destruction.
What about Dr. Manhattan?
Oh, don't get me started on Dr. Manhattan.
Totally different universe.
Yeah, but he controls time.
Yeah, don't get me started on Dr. Manhattan. I'm gay for that man. I also want to be him, so.
If Dr. Manhattan and Doctor Doom were in the same universe, Doctor Doom would still win because it's Doctor Doom.
Well, no. See, this is where I disagree. Dr. Manhattan would literally reatomize him.
It wouldn't happen. It's Doctor Doom.
Dr. Manhattan. Jesus Christ.
It doesn't matter. It's Doctor Doom, dude. It doesn't matter. Well, the universe has said that Doctor Doom wins. There's no going back.
Well, I disagree with that because Dr. Manhattan would.
You can't disagree with the universe, dude.
Yes, I can. With your universe, I can.
That's not my universe. It's the universe.
Well, fuck you. I have my own universe, and he wins. Dr. Manhattan.
Your reality, I replace it with my own.
Yes, basically, yes.
Oh, I see.
I reject your multiverse that you exist in many possible worlds and substitute my extant actualized world that I am in. That is the only one that really matters.
By the way, comparing Dr. Manhattan to literally anything else is just not fair, because Dr. Manhattan's power makes literally anything seem small and weak. Like,
I don't know. Endgame, like Doctor Doom is probably pretty goddamn close. Like he fights on his own, fights like what 3 or 4 Celestials all at once.
Yeah, Endgame Doctor Doom, very powerful. Dr. Manhattan's power is to literally control the quantum reality.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, but so is Doctor Doom.
Yes.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
You have an endangered species entering. That entered the chat.
You mean
how you doing?
A Jared?
How you doing, Eagle? Yeah. How you doing, Eagle boy?
Hi, Jared. I love you. I miss you.
I love you too, Jared. I don't miss you.
Hello, everyone.
Whoa. He's mine, okay? Jared is.
Hey, there's enough of me to go around.
Oh, listen to you. Everybody wants a piece of you.
Yes.
Were you?
There's first time for everything.
Jared, were you an Eagle Scout?
No.
What the fuck?
Just curious. I was a Life Scout.
I actually went out and got laid during grade school and high school.
With anybody we know?
Oh, listen to you.
Do we got references? Do we get some details on that? Evidence?
Yeah.
Did you record it on beta?
Yeah.
Are you just wait? The implications of that are 1, citation needed, and 2. He said he was Steve.
Inkboy, €2. Deadpool could defeat Doctor Doom because of the fourth wall. Ooh, that's a
okay. So
Deadpool can violate the fourth wall.
Interestingly enough about that is that 1, the only person who's like legitimately beaten Doctor Doom in any like way that matters is Squirrel Girl, and not even Deadpool. So Deadpool still has like rules and limitations, but Squirrel Girl is a complete joke character, so it doesn't even matter.
Well, hold on. Didn't Schoolgirl also beat up Thanos?
Yeah, Squirrel Girl beats everybody.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Squirrel Girl has literally beat up the one above all and the one below all.
Yeah.
She's beaten up both God and the devil.
Yeah, because the one above all is supposed to be the basically God, I guess.
Not basically, literally.
Yeah, the creator of everything. I mean, but isn't the one above all kind of? Isn't that? I mean, if you had to like say it was Stan Lee, he would finally be
if
the one above all.
Batman can dodge the anti-life equation because he's a Mary Sue little bitch, then Dr. Doom would beat Dr. Manhattan.
No, you do not get to fucking say that. Okay, he's not a Mary Sue little bitch. Okay, he's not perfect.
Okay.
He makes mistakes.
Wow,
all the
someone's
time.
triggered.
Can the anti-life equation miss? Yes or no?
I don't know much about the anti-life equation, so I don't know.
So the answer is no. The anti-life equation is a beam that gets shot out by Darkseid that hits and it's anti-life equation. It cannot miss. Batman rolled out of the way. He's a Mary Sue.
Yeah,
It sounds like something out of Doctor Who too. They had something very similar.
What do you mean no? That happened. That was the thing that happened.
I would just call that poor writing. I wouldn't call him a Mary Sue.
Which poor writing is Mary Sue. Making a character a Mary Sue is poor writing.
Yeah, but he himself is not Mary Sue.
Now, I would say Batman is OP and has plot armor to all hell. To say he's a Mary Sue is not exactly accurate.
Exactly.
Because a Mary Sue would more be like Rey from Star Wars, where, hey, I just happen to know everything and can do everything.
Yeah, but
what do you mean it takes training to do this?
But Batman does that too, where he's like, "Oh, let me infiltrate Darkseid's fortress."
But he worked for it.
I could.
He literally.
You know, let me finish.
Well, no, because he literally spent years honing. He literally spent years honing, his body and mind.
Okay. Now, if you let me finish, none of that matters, because when he infiltrated, it's not that he infiltrated that's the problem. It's that Superman got captured, Batman walked in the front door and knew their language instantaneously to the degree that he was able to hack in to all of Darkseid's security and rewrite it all within a matter of minutes.
Well, that's because Darkseid has attacked the Earth so many fucking times. Batman had time to learn the language.
That is never established. That is never established during this series. This is the first time that Darkseid had showed up.
Are you talking about war?
I'm talking.
The first time Darkseid is like introduced, Batman does stuff which indicates he has knowledge of like Darkseid's technology that he uses. Like, I believe he even utilizes a boom tube at one point in time on that initial encounter.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will admit I'm completely biased for.
We couldn't tell.
Yeah, the triggering didn't kind of give it away.
I don't actually dislike Batman, by the way. He's just that he's utilized as a Mary Sue so often to just write the writers out of corners that they wrote themselves. Because
Batman can do anything.
Batman knows it's fine.
Yeah,
Batman
has the skill set to basically outthink everybody else and out scheme. His superpower is more the ability to scheme.
Well,
and
there's nothing. Look. He's a futurist.
Fine.
Hold on. He's a futurist like Tony Stark. Can you blame him?
Okay, which is fine, but that doesn't mean, hey, here's a super advanced technological alien language and technology. Oh, press button, go boom.
Yeah,
okay,
why not?
thanks,
Make it
Batman.
simple. Batman makes everything simple.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get lucky when they just hand mash buttons.
I mean, if that's what he was doing, I would be fine. If it was he got lucky, I'd be down. I'd take that explanation, but that's not what they say. He just figures it
out. Look. You know what? I don't know. Like I said, I'm biased. I don't care. I will fully admit it.
It's not Batman's
Well,
fault. He gets a.
well, hang on. This is something I might give a little credit to the writers on, because say that the actual reality was that Batman really just pulled it out of his ass. Someone who does that, are they going to admit that in front of everyone? Or are they going to play cool like, nah, I meant to do that shit?
Yeah, play cool.
It doesn't matter what Batman said to the rest of the Justice League. It matters what the writers told the audience.
Right, but Jared's
Which is done through the dialogue
Well,
and
that's-
behavior of the character.
There is something called idiot boxing. Have you heard that before, Jared? Idiot boxing.
But then
For expository.
with that, they could have done that, but they are entirely fucking lazy.
Oh, dude, I hate.
Let's admit that
I
right
hate
now.
that though.
Writers nowadays in these areas are entirely fucking lazy.
I see it all the time.
Vicky,
I understand the need for idiot boxing to some degree, because you don't want to spend 5 hours going over a significant amount of plot history and things of that nature. But I hate lazy writing where they take so much that needs to be said and they put it to two statements of idiot box expository from the protagonist saying, "Oh look, such went to college and they're doing this and we're doing this and we're moving on, blah blah blah," and there's your story. There you go. Okay, so everything's
Batman, how did you do this? Because I'm Batman. Well, okay, hold on.
well, no, hang on. You want to talk about bad writing? Who here has watched the new Injustice movie?
I haven't.
We don't talk about that.
Is it,
Well, I'm talking about.
I just watched Squid Games and that was so good.
English said the best superhero of all time is Defender, and then in response, McPherson said best villain is Snowflame. Hell yeah, Snowflame!
I don't know
you guys
these
Snowflame
people.
fans?
Wait, what are you talking about? Snowflame? Where is that from?
You guys don't know who Snowflame is?
No.
No.
I'm trying to remember. He was was it the Young Bloods? I'm pretty sure he was the villain for Young Blood.
I know. I remember Young Guns.
But the Injustice movie. Okay, look. The Injustice movie tries to pack so much into like an hour and 18 minutes, and they change a lot from the video games, which I never played too, and the comics.
Okay.
Right.
You wanted to fix the Batman Darkseid issue. All you would have to do is have a little bit of time, indicate there was some time passing, and show Batman in the Batcave analyzing Darkseid's technology. I buy that Batman was able to figure it out and understand that, hey, the coding is similar, it's just using an alternate language that changes and he can follow that. I'm fine with that. He's a great detective. He should be able to figure it out. It's just that he didn't figure it out. They don't show any of this. They actually
say he's the Mary Sue.
But that's why he's a Mary Sue. They're utilizing him as a Mary Sue because he didn't do that. He just did it. They skipped that part because they were lazy. And so he was just, I magically know this thing. I didn't take any time to figure it out or analyze it. I just did it.
Here's my only contention with putting that label on Batman as a whole. That was one story, and it has been recent incarnations that they have fallen into that trope. Earlier installments and more legacy installments of the character have actually shown him doing the legwork and going through. So that's where I can't agree with the character in totality being a Mary Sue like Rey from Star Wars.
So I don't think that's necessarily a fair comparison. You've got decades of Batman and you've got 3 movies with Rey. And so there's
I don't think that really applying one label to Batman is fair in of itself, because
I agree with that too.
The Batman from the origin, the Silver Age, the Golden Age, modern,
it's
all
not
those
the same Batman.
Yeah. So there have definitely been some very Mary Sue Batmans, but there have also been some really awesome Batmans that had significant growth. Like
that's why I said I don't dislike Batman. It's not Batman's fault that this keeps happening to him.
They just finished the that last storyline, and that one was fantastic.
The Court of Owls was really fucking good, and that's a more recent Batman where he didn't have the shit Mary suit out of him. But where are the biggest media where you see Batman? Almost always, he's got some Mary Sue bullshittery going on. He dodges the anti-life equation by rolling out of the way. He fucking
Well, yeah, but all of
almost
those.
the Christopher Nolan Batmans,
Wait,
almost
wait,
all
wait,
the
hold on,
movie,
hold on,
live-action
hold on.
movies. He's got some random garbage that is just like, I'm sorry, how did you get to a hole in the desert in the
Well-
middle of nowhere to fucking having the time to put gasoline in the shape of a bat? What the fuck just happened here?
Well, wait, hold on. Darkseid, as far as I know, as far as I know, Darkseid's Omega beams have nothing to do with the anti-life equation, which depending on the incarnation, he's been searching forever. Like, in the Justice League Unlimited, he actually finally gets the anti-life equation because Luthor gives it to him. So what do you mean he dodged the anti-life equation beams? You mean Omega beams?
I have no
Don't you?
idea.
I'm double checking. I'm double checking the name of the ability.
Want to know what I love right now is the fact that we've completely hijacked this away from the topic that it was to be entirely about comics.
Yes.
Yeah. I do think he's right there, but also at the same time, it doesn't matter because the same beams hit the Flash when the Flash was trying to dodge.
Yeah.
Batman's not faster than the Flash.
Well, who's
Yeah, if you want it, if I got the name of it wrong, fine, but it doesn't change the argument, right?
It still does, because Batman is Batman, and Flash is the Flash.
What the fuck does that
that's
but-
kind of tautological.
But
Yeah.
but see right there, you're
That's
falling into the trope of the writers.
Doing him, yeah. You just marry Sam Batman. You could do it because he's
Dude,
Batman.
I told you, I have a bias. I have a bias for Batman.
At this point,
No,
I have
I
a better bias. I have a more healthy bias towards your character because I actually like Batman, which is why I take issue when he gets Mary sued.
Which, okay, fine, that's fair enough.
Would you like a little
I
more
don't
detail on
dislike
how he
Batman.
goes about doing certain things rather than saying, "Oh, he's Batman, so therefore it works"?
It doesn't even have to be like a lot. It's just that they have him doing things that are just because he's Batman, he can do this. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. If you stop being lazy, like what Jared said, being lazy about writing
Mhm.
and actually take the necessary time to tell the story you want to tell, then you don't have these Mary Sue issues.
Well, sometimes the reason why writers are lazy might also be due to time constraints, right?
Don't give a
Well, but that's just like again, that's that's expository idiot box writing. Oh, we're not going to suss this out or flesh this out or spend too much time on it. We're going to say
look, I'm
what
not
happened to this
denying- I'm not-
character.
I'm
Oh,
not
they
de-
wait. No,
I'm
they,
not-
hang on. What? Remember these shows where they'd have like a sister or a brother that you would see them in the first couple of episodes, and then you never see
And
them
then they
again.
disappear.
And then the idiot box would be the expository of one of them saying, "Hey, whatever happened to Jimmy? He went upstairs and never saw him again." Or, "Hey, I hope Jimmy's doing well in school somewhere," even though they don't have anything more. Matter of fact, I remember Happy Days. The original Happy Days had one more brother that just kind of like whatever happened to him. He just vanished.
you wanna
They
talk
never
about-
talked about him.
Went to boarding school.
He went to boarding
wanna
school
talk
and just
about-
vanished.
You want to talk about idiot
Everyone
box?
that Jack Slater ever dated that happened to.
Of course. But you want to talk about idiot box? Actually, I don't know if I should bring this show up. Nah, I'm not gonna bring it up.
Do it anyways. It could be spicy.
Right, but fuck
I
it.
mean that there's like it's not, again, there are very good Batman comics and there are very good versions of Batman that are out there that are fantastically well written. But then you've got things like Batman is thrust back in time and he's basically a bomb because every time he jumps forward faster. And the whole plan is that when he hits modern day, where the Justice League are, he will land and blow up the universe because wibbly wobbly bullshit, right? And I'm not gonna pick on the wibbly wobbly time bullshit. I'm like, okay, fine, you've explained this enough that I'm willing to suspend my disbelief. But what happens is the Justice League are trying to chase Batman through time and find him so they can stop the problem. And Batman not only figures out every life that he is Batman and finds his stuff, his utility belt, every time he jumps, even though he's in different parts of the world. He still manages somehow to get a hold of his utility belt, and the utility belt, although limited in this case, they never actually tell you what's in it at the beginning, nor what's in it at the end. They just say that it's limited, so he can't use all of it all at once. But he's able to also figure out what the guy's plan was in the future without having his memories of being tossed in into the past, because every single time he has to start again from zero and live out whatever chunk of life he's living at the time. But he figures out how to break it, casts himself further forward in time where he is able to expand and get the solution so that way he can return back to the proper time without destroying the universe. And the Justice League doesn't get anywhere close to stopping him because he's Batman and he's too good. But then he dies because that's the only way for him to stop whatever's going on. And fucking Robin,
Doesn't
Red Robin,
like a? If I'm thinking
it doesn't matter how he does it. They hand wave it away because he's fucking Batman. And then Batman dies. Superman and Wonder Woman are crying over his dead body, being like, "Oh my God! Despite all the powers I have as Superman in this world, boo-hoo! I can't save Batman." Red Robin walks in with Batman's cowl, says, "Oh, don't worry. Just tell him his city needs him." Throws the cowl at him, walks out of the room, and the next scene is Batman standing like a goddamn gargoyle in Gotham City. And I was like, what the fuck?
Here's where I find supreme hilarity in that is that you have a problem with a character like that when shit like that becomes a meme that people expect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
when it becomes an in-universe joke. How many times you've come back from the dead?
At least they did something really, like the first time when they realized that this was going on, they did the Blackest Night. That was cool. That was a cool threat. So it was like everybody who's dead or has ever died is now a Black Lantern. And it's like, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. But the problem is that superheroes never, like comic book series, never let their characters move on or end their story. Right? There's no end. Poor Peter Parker, man. Poor fucking Peter Parker is perpetually living a cycle of bullshit forever.
Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on.
no problem. Yeah, we're
Steve,
gonna wrap it up here because it is 90 minutes.
I'm gonna go.
Other stuff going on. But thank you for calling Athena and Jared and Helios and Jessie. I think that's her name, right? Jessie, is that her name?
Okay, very funny.
Yeah. I vaguely remember.
Real quick, but before I disconnect and go, the actual reason why I joined this was to point something out to you, Steve.
Sure.
Back to the whole time travel thing. A few years ago, Brian Cox actually did an analysis of it of would backwards time travel be possible. The issue he had was the power source, but if you're able to deflect your world line to the 45-degree angle enough and do it enough times, you would curl back on itself.
No, I mean, I understand that on a Minkowski diagram where you are traveling at that space-like or time-like journey where you're at a 45-degree angle, which would be photonic speed, that you conceivably could go backwards in time under conditions where you have that what's called Minkowski light cone tipping when you go through an event horizon. Matter of fact, on a event horizon of a Schwarzschild black hole that's rotating, actually that'd be a Kerr black hole. So if it's rotating and you have the inner and outer event horizon split, you literally going past the outer event horizon would have that Minkowski light cone that you just talked about, that 45-degree angle, tip over on its side, and you would go having a completely time-like journey that's not involving any spatial dimensions. So the mathematics does that. Yes, it's completely possible in that regard, but I don't know how that is something that can translate into real-world applications where we can actually physically do it outside somewhere like a black hole. Because once you're in a black hole, you're screwed. So you know, sure.
Well, and that's where that whole question of taking the theoretical into the practical comes into play. And the framework he was initially starting from was actually the premise and the idea of something like the TARDIS, where you have a contained singularity as your power source.
Yeah, and
so
it would
you are
require something
utilizing
like
that
that.
singularity to do it.
Yeah, but the thing is, again, the universe, you know, would have to rewind itself, and it seems like the energy requirements are more than what the entire universe has available to it. So it seems like it has a stopgap measure. Matter of fact, do you remember? I think it was Hawking that came up with something called the what was it? The agency that he called it, the non-causal something agency, that is a agency of the universe that prevents paradox from occurring, that it prevents things like that occurring, because the universe is set up such that it will not do these things by its own existence, by its own whatever laws that it has. Says it's not going to do it. So there's a temporal causal agency or something like that. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Any of these paradoxes would cause a collapse of the universe, and it would cease to exist.
Right. So I think the universe protects itself by saying, you know what? Sounds good on paper, but not going to let you do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's where, with the whole warp travel thing too, if you're manipulating the literal fabric of space-time, you can only do it so much before you're going to start breaking shit. And once you start breaking that, a lot of
the big
other
rip.
things end up breaking.
Well, I mean, do we think that we have the empowerment to destroy something as large as the universe? That's pretty impressive. You know, if we do.
Not yet, but people are determined enough and with enough knowledge would be able to.
Man would find a way, right?
Yeah.
Before we get out, I got something I got to add about Batman. Listen, can't let this go. Batman is a fantastic character. He's got some interesting psychoses, and there's a lot of fun philosophy and exploration you can do with his character. But what Batman is that he's highly intelligent, and given enough time and enough information can pretty much overcome any problem. But when you take out the need for information and time, you take out the thing that makes him cool, and you take out the what he is and what makes him cool and good and interesting. So it's cool that given enough time, he would be able to break through Darkseid's codes and defenses to be able to use the boom tubes. That makes sense. That's cool. But when you take out his intelligence and the time that he would need to actually do that, you're taking away from the character and you're turning him into like a Deus Ex Machina, and that's shitty for the character.
Yeah, well, that's lazy writing too. When you have a Deus Ex Machina that comes in to save the day.
About Batman, he knows that he's a broken person. Like in the Darkness Night, he actually gets the white ring, and then he immediately goes nope and takes off. And then when he was questioned about it, he's like, "Yeah, that power shouldn't be entrusted to me."
Yep. Yeah. No. Batman knows he's like questionable.
Yeah. There are two rings that actually accept him: the white ring and the yellow ring.
Fear. Yeah.
Well, anyways, Batman's still a better story than Twilight. That's all that matters.
For a love story?
Batman,
for anything.
I'm just saying, Batman's a great character and he's got a lot going for him when he's written properly. It's the same thing that pisses me off when people who take over stories start trying to pair together Wonder Woman and Superman, because they both strong.
I was a kid. I'm still waiting for Jason Momoa to be cast as Wonder Woman, because that would be awesome.
I want to see
if it wasn't already
Aquaman.
Aquaman.
I want to see Jason Momoa cast as a barbarian in a D&D game who he's played by Miss Piggy.
That'd be more of the Mountain from
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah, he'd make a good barbarian.
I would be okay with that too. I want to see a Muppets Dungeons and Dragons where the Muppets are sitting around the table playing D&D, and the real people in the movie are the characters in the game. Jason Momoa being Miss Piggy and having Miss Piggy's voice come out of Jason Momoa sounds amazing.
All right, you got anything coming up, Chesh, this week? I'm a
I
busy
don't
little
know.
beaver this week, so I got a lot of in real life stuff going on. Good stuff. Good
There's
stuff.
a lot of fun D&D Critical Role stuff coming out, so there's going to be like some fun old and new Vox Machina art that I'm going to be working on, and I'm excited to have. There'll be some new goblins coming out also, as well as I think there's going to be some new stuff on the shop this week. If you're interested, you can find my Teespring store linked on my channel. But as for streams, I've almost got that time of the month back, but it's not quite there yet. And I don't know, there might be a Dumb Feck Friday this Friday. We'll see what happens if there's something dumb enough that I'm like, oh.
There's always going to be
good.
something dumb enough. Expect it. And the Tree Feline says it is the, I got this earlier, but I didn't make a note of it. The Tree Feline said it is the chronologically projection conjecture.
Oh.
Chronology. Oh, that's what it is. Chronology protection conjecture. That's what Hawkins came up with to maintain that the timeline stays consistent and that the universe doesn't do anything that's weird like that, like time travel. Like I said, I believe that it's probably not any of that stuff's possible, but if it is, it'd be great. But I tend to side that physics doesn't allow for it.
Sometimes it's very difficult to do. This is why I have issues with a lot of media that does time travel in their stories. Like I really liked Back to the Future. That was one of the better ones. Was it the Time Traveler's Wife or I can't remember. One of those was very good.
I saw that too. My favorite is Primer. Primer is the number one time travel movie of all time.
Flashpoint Paradox was also really well done.
Did you even watch Primer?
No.
Primer is the best time travel movie, bar none.
Like I said, I avoid unless I get recommended. I tend to avoid time travel storylines.
I recommend it.
Like, oh God, no!
I cannot recommend Primer anymore. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's just so well done, and it does talk about how time travel would actually kind of, at least theoretically, be done, and it's very, very good. It's such a low budget too. It was made like on $6,000. Another similar movie that's involves a little bit of that kind of storyline. It's called Safety Not Guaranteed. Great movie. If you want just a bubblegum movie to sit down and watch and just kind of escape, go watch Safety Not Guaranteed. Great movie. Yeah. So, all right, guys, wrapping it up. Jesse, do you have anything to plug? And that's not a sexual euphemism joke or anything like that.
I think she left.
Oh, okay. I didn't know she took off. All right, how about you, Jared?
You got hung up on, Steve.
Yeah, she comes and goes. You know how most women are. They just, hang out when they want to hang out.
I got nothing coming up this week because I'm actually working this weekend. But next weekend, I have the typical Kanar with the Mar sci-fi shenanigans and then the VTW shit show.
Nice. Yeah. Somebody had asked. Nick just said
discussing Batman.
the name of the movie is Primer. Yeah, go check it out. It's an amazing time travel movie. Just amazing. I've been trying to find something worthy of binge watching. I'm watching Leverage, the newer version, whatever it was, Leverage Redemption or something like that. But if you have a decent show to recommend, let me know, because I just kind of like kick it and watch a TV on the laptop there, and it's kind of nice. I binge watched Squid Games in a matter of a couple days. So that was recommended to me, and I was like, holy crap, this is really good. So I'm taking recommendations. If you think something is of interest, let me know, because I would be happy to check it out.
Stargate.
I've seen all the Stargates. I've watched every movie of Stargate.
It doesn't mean you can't watch them again.
Yeah, that's true. I know. I'm looking
Stargate is great. I love Stargate.
Stargate was a really good show.
Particularly SG-1. Universe had some writing problems that I disliked, but I really loved Rush. I liked Rush, the character. He was great. He plays Rumpelstiltskin in
Once Upon a Time.
That story. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time was one of my favorite shows. I was actually very disappointed when that got canceled. Well, I mean, it came to a resolution. I mean, they did a great job with it. No spoilers, but
at least it came to resolution. I just got annoyed because the whole first first season was just like, oh my god, you're throwing way too many characters at me at once right now. And then they started hyper focusing on a couple of them, and I'm like, then why did I need to know who all these people are? Fuck off.
Smitty says check out Clone High. I was going to check that out. Clone High was the
Clone High
that's
is
a
hilarious.
that's a superhero. They're all kid superheroes, right?
No, in Clone High, they're
Yeah.
just like clones of historical figures.
Historical figures. That's right. Historical figures. That's what it was. Like Abraham Lincoln and
Yes,
stuff.
yes, it's amazing. Supposedly, there's a new one coming
Is
out.
that a
but
cartoon though?
I
It's a
don't-
cartoon, ain't it?
Yeah, it was like a cartoon in the same sort of vein as like undergrads and like Adult Swim type cartoon.
Yeah, Jess is right. We got to get going. We keep on saying we're going to wrap it up, and we don't. So we are going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, all that. Appreciate
Thank
the
you for
super
calling.
chats and appreciate the callers. And
Yeah, it was fun.
I will have something probably streaming on this Thursday. I got some Philo stuff that I want to talk about. Okay, and then check out Cheshire's channel. Also on the 15th, we've got supposedly another hearing for a non sequitur show, which we all know Kyle's not going to show up to, but we'll discuss that, what the ramifications are of him not showing up to that hearing, which could be significant after my lawyer tells me that he hasn't shown up and what the judge said. Okay, so with that, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.